We are here in the heart of the Institute. We are at this moment in the library, which is named after Professor Max Fish. Professor Max Fish is a great American philosophical scholar who established the Peirce Edition Project at IUPUI in the mid-1970s. The Peirce Project is one of the core elements of the Institute. It was established more than 30 years ago, and the main mission of the project is to produce a chronological, critical edition of the works of one of the greatest geniuses of the United States. In order to drive the point about who was Charles Sanders Peirce, I would like to show you a little other great philosopher. Everyone recognizes this particular statue, which is that of Aristotle. Aristotle is one of the two great founders of Western philosophy. Plato, before him, and then himself. Aristotle is one of the most prodigious intellects in the history of thought. He founded Western philosophy. Now, it happens that Charles Sanders Peirce has been named or dubbed already in his time as the American Aristotle. You would not give that title to just about any philosopher, only to the cream of the cream, to the first-rank philosophers, those prodigious minds that have revolutionized the way we think and the way we understand what it means to think about thinking and about the world and about reality, etc. Charles Sanders Peirce received the title of the American Aristotle because he was the only intellect who really deserved that kind of title by virtue of his contributions. I return Aristotle to my pocket. It is nice to have Aristotle in one's pocket as a reminder. But I am not publishing the works of Aristotle, I'm publishing the works of Peirce. Peirce is recognized as on the same rank because he was a logician, he was a scientist, he was a mathematician, and of course he was one of the greatest philosophers. What did he do? Many researches. Among them, in logic, he is the founder of what is called today the logic of relations, which is a type of logic that revolutionized and replaced Aristotle's logic. He also came up with a new system of representation in logic called graphical logic, something that is being studied today all over the world. In the sciences, he was a geodesist, a scientist who studied the figure of the earth, who would go here and there throughout the land, establish stations where he would swing a pendulum and measure the pull of gravity here and there to figure out the figure of the earth. He spent 31 years of his life in the, at the United States Coast and Geodetic Survey in order to do that kind of research in which his skills also as an astronomer and as a mathematician were important. As a mathematician, he did a lot of work, revolutionary work too, in the mathematics of continuity and the mathematics of the infinite. He also was one of the founders of this important branch of mathematics called topology. He also did great work in the theory of numbers and did a lot of applied mathematics in many different fields, including the field of bridge engineering. He worked for a bridge engineer and did a lot of calculations about different problems that had to do with the strength that this bridge had to be able to sustain. As a scientist, he was also a chemist. He actually got a degree in chemistry, one of the first one in this land, and and came up with his own inventions that he hoped was going to help make him money, but that was one of those things he was not too good at. He never made money out of his chemical inventions. As a philosopher, he is known as the founder of pragmatism. Pragmatism is important in the history of philosophy, especially in the United States, because it is the only truly original contribution that this country has done to the history of philosophy. It is a type of philosophy that could only have been born in this land, and it happened to be primarily under the pen of Charles Sanders Peirce. Another area where he has done key contribution is the logic of science, also known as semiotics. Semiotics is today studied in a lot of universities on all the continents on this planet. Semiotics is one of these methods of investigation that are truly interdisciplinary. It is used in the humanities, it is used in the hard sciences, it is used, for instance, in biology and in the social sciences. It is also useful to those who study the arts, in art history, and also in the study of aesthetics, the kind of logic that Peirce came up with in order to explain what is going on, say, in a painting, or in the experience that one has with a painting. He provided the kind of method that allows one to make sense of that kind of experience. So Peirce is being studied today all over the world. What the Peirce Edition Project does is to produce a critical and chronological edition of his works. It happens that his works are not in a good condition. He produced about 150,000 pages of manuscript over his life. Most of those pages, unfortunately, are in disarray. They are not paginated, they are not dated, and it behooves us here at IUPUI to bring all of these works back into a state that they can be read by and become useful to philosophical scholars and many other scholars.
Now we are here in the lab of the Peirce Edition Project, and these are the papers, or at least photocopies of the papers of the American philosopher Charles Sanders Peirce. And what we do here is we try to reconstruct Peirce's documents from the remains of Peirce's manuscripts as they remain behind after his death. So most of the work we are doing here is to reconnect pages that have been disconnected through time. Charles Peirce is an American philosopher. He is a logician and a mathematician as well, and that poses very difficult questions for trying to reconstruct documents that have a lot of symbols in them, very changing patterns of thought. And he wrote everything by longhand, so we depend a lot on following Peirce's handwriting and seeing where he's going, how he's retracing his thought, and yeah, just reconstructing several trains of thought next to one another. The Peirce Project is dedicated to the publication of the works of Charles Sanders Peirce in a chronological edition. We have published so far 7 volumes. This is part of volume 11. We are very busy with volume 9, which is at the moment being in layout. And then we do volume 11, which is Peirce's logic book. And after that we go back in time to volume 10 to do everything that's left behind in mostly 1894. What we do here is a lot of scholarly work, and we have, with respect to students, quite a number of students come in that are research associates or research assistants. Most of the research associates that work for the Peirce Project are mostly doing historical research, trying to trace the names and the references made by Peirce in the documents. He had a very bad habit of not telling where he got his stuff from, so that needs to be retraced, and students are really great help in doing that. We also have an MA program in American philosophy, and most of the students that work here come from that MA program, which specializes exclusively, or mostly at least, to students who want to know more about American philosophy rather than philosophy in general.